Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. This time, we're going to be talking about something really incredible. We're talking about titanium hearts. I've got all these articles right here about this technology, and it's amazing stuff. We're talking about keeping people alive, like actually keeping people alive while they wait for heart transplants.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think about.
Right.
Like, there's a heart out there that's made almost entirely of titanium.
Wow.
It spins, and it spins with no friction thanks to magnets.
It sounds like sci-fi.
I know, right? It's happening right now, though. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, breaking down exactly how it works.
I'm excited to dive in. So I guess maybe we should start with the basics. Like, what is this thing? What's it called? How does it actually work?
So we're talking about the BiVACOR Total Artificial Heart, or TAH.
BiVACOR TAH. Okay.
It's designed to basically fully replace the function of a feeling heart.
So someone's heart gives out, this goes in, and it just keeps them going.
It's a bridge to transplant for patients with end-stage heart failure. And that's when your heart's so damaged, it just can't pump enough blood to meet your body's needs.
Oh, wow. So it's basically a lifeline.
Exactly. And it's incredible to think that we've reached a point where we can fully replace such a vital organ.
It really is mind-blowing. And you said it's made primarily of titanium, right?
Yeah, so the BiVACOR, like I said, is primarily titanium.
Titanium, I mean, that's got to be strong, right?
Super strong and durable. And then they use this revolutionary technology called magnetic levitation.
Magnetic levitation. That sounds like something straight out of Star Trek.
It kind of is. They call it maglev for short, and it's how they pump blood with this thing.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this maglev thing.
So imagine, instead of relying on like mechanical parts, all those little bits and pieces that can wear out over time, the BiVACOR has this rotor that's suspended in a magnetic field.
A rotor suspended in a magnetic field, so it's like floating.
Yeah, it's basically floating. It spins continuously without any friction.
So it's like a high-tech spinning top inside your chest, pushing blood through your body.
Yeah, exactly. You got it.
Yeah.
And because there's no friction, there's way less wear and tear on the device.
Okay, that makes sense. It's built to last.
Exactly. It's potentially much more durable than older artificial hearts, which had a ton of moving parts that were prone to breaking down.
Right. Makes sense. So this titanium heart, it just keeps spinning and spinning and pushing blood through your body.
Pretty much. But here's the really interesting part.
Okay, what's that?
The BiVACOR doesn't create a pulse like a normal heart does.
What? No pulse? How does that even work?
Well, our hearts, the way they normally work, they create a pulse by contracting and relaxing, right? Pushing blood out in bursts.
Right, like a pump.
Exactly. But the BiVACOR, it's different. It creates this continuous, smooth flow of blood.
Really? No pulsing at all? That's wild.
Yeah. And it's actually a more efficient way to circulate blood, believe it or not.
More efficient? You mean better than our own hearts?
Potentially, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It reduces stress on the body and could even allow for higher blood flow rates.
Wow. So it's not just about replacing the heart's function, it's about potentially improving upon it.
You got it.
So what does that actually mean for the patients? Like, what's the difference?
Well, for one thing, this continuous flow, it's gentler on your blood vessels.
Okay, I can see how that would be a good thing.
And it could lead to fewer complications compared to the pulsing action of traditional artificial hearts.
Yeah. Less wear and tear on the whole system.
Exactly. Plus, with these potentially higher blood flow rates, patients could be more active, have a better quality of life while they wait for a transplant.
Oh, wow. So not just surviving, but thriving. I was reading about this case in Australia. This guy lived for over 100 days with a BiVACOR heart.
Yeah, that's an incredible story.
And he was able to leave the hospital, like actually go home and kind of live a normal life?
Yeah, he could go out, spend time with his family, all while being powered by a titanium heart. Pretty amazing.
I mean, it's hard to even believe that's possible. It feels like something out of a movie.
Right. Cases like that show just how far this technology has come. It's super promising, Paints a pretty exciting picture of what the future might hold.
It really does. But I know there are still some hurdles, right? Like, this isn't going to be available to everyone tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. There are still some challenges we need to overcome before this becomes, a common treatment option.
Like what are some of the biggest roadblocks?
Well, one of the big ones, and it's a big one, is cost. Combining the titanium with that complex maglev technology, it makes these hearts really expensive to produce.
So it's kind of like the cutting edge of tech. It's going to be expensive at first.
Right. That means limited access for a lot of people, especially in countries with, limited healthcare budgets.
Yeah, that makes sense. So figuring out how to make this technology more affordable, that's got to be like a top priority.
Oh, absolutely. And, there are tons of really smart people working on this problem, like exploring new manufacturing techniques, looking at different funding models, trying to figure out a way to make titanium hearts more accessible, on a global scale.
That's good to hear. What about the portability? Like, that Australian patient, he was still tethered to this external power source. Can we make these hearts completely self-contained? Like, is that even possible?
Well, right now, patients do need to be connected to this portable controller, kind of like a little box.
Okay.
And it powers the heart.
I see. So it's portable, but not exactly invisible.
Right. But research is focused on making them more independent. Like, imagine a future where you could charge these hearts wirelessly.
Wireless charging. That would be incredible.
Some researchers are even looking at charging vests.
Yeah.
You just wear it, and it transfers energy through your skin.
Wow. Like science fiction stuff.
I know, right? That would be a total game changer for patients. Freedom, mobility, you name it.
Yeah, that would be amazing. But what about the body's reaction? Like, you're putting this titanium thing inside your chest. Are there risks, like rejection or complications?
You're right. Biocompatibility is crucial. We need to make sure the body accepts the device and doesn't try to fight it off.
Yeah, you don't want your body attacking your own heart.
Exactly. Titanium, thankfully, it's generally well tolerated, but there's always that risk, right? Blood clots forming on the surface, infections developing. You can't eliminate every risk.
So it's still early days. Scientists are still trying to make these titanium hearts even more compatible with the human body.
All the time, yeah. They're working on special coatings, new materials, trying to mimic the properties of our natural blood vessels.
To make it as seamless as possible.
Exactly. Make them less likely to trigger an immune response or cause those clots. It's a constant process of refinement, always improving.
It sounds like we've come a long way, but there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. We've got these inspiring success stories, that's for sure. But we need more data. Yeah. We need bigger studies, longer term, to really understand how these hearts perform over time.
Right. Like, how long can they really last?
Exactly. And could they potentially be a permanent solution, for those who can't get a transplant? It's a big question.
Yeah, those are important questions. Things we need to figure out before we can really say, okay, titanium hearts, they're here to stay.
Absolutely. We've made incredible progress, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
It's fascinating, though. I mean, the possibilities. It's like we're on the verge of a whole new era of medicine.
Oh, yeah. It's an exciting time to be in this field. Mm-hmm. Lots of big questions, lots of potential. We're just getting started.
Okay, so we've been talking about these crazy advancements in artificial hearts, specifically that BiVACOR TAH. And, just to recap, it's that one made primarily of titanium, uses magnetic levitation, so no pulse. It's really incredible to think this is already out there helping people live longer, more fulfilling lives.
It's really something, isn't it? A real testament to just how clever people can be. But, like with any, groundbreaking tech, we've got some challenges we still got to figure out.
Right. Yeah, we were talking before about the cost of these things and needing more research to see how they do, long term. But you also mentioned some regulatory and infrastructure hurdles. What exactly do you mean by that?
Think of it this way. We can build the most amazing advanced titanium heart in the whole world. But if we don't have the systems in place to support it, actually use it, it's basically useless.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's not just about the technology itself. It's about everything around it.
You got it.
Yeah.
You need those specialized surgical teams, right? The people who can actually implant these hearts. Then you need hospitals and clinics equipped to care for patients with these devices. And then there's that whole regulatory maze, right? Making sure this technology is safe, making sure it works, all that stuff. It's a lot.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like a huge undertaking, especially when you consider, the global scale of heart problems.
It is. It really is. And that's why it's so important for everyone to work together. International collaboration, sharing what we know, sharing resources, sharing expertise. Got to make this technology available to everyone who needs it, right?
Right. Yeah. That brings up another point. Even if we solve all these technical problems, all those regulations, how do we make sure these titanium hearts are available to everyone? I mean, regardless of where they live, how much money they have,
That's the big question, isn't it? You're absolutely right. It's not enough to just develop this amazing technology. We need to make it available to everyone who could benefit. That's just, the right thing to do.
I completely agree. Yeah, it's like a social justice issue as much as a medical one. But okay, we've been talking a lot about like the practical stuff. What about the human side of all this? Like, what's it like to live with one of these things?
Oh, for sure. It's so important to remember, right? We're not dealing with just machines here. We're dealing with people, real people with lives and hopes and fears.
Right. And one thing I've been thinking about, and maybe our expert can speak to this, like, what's the psychological impact of living without a heartbeat? I mean, it seems like such a basic part of being human, right? It's got to be a huge adjustment for patients.
Yeah, that's something researchers are looking into for sure. Our sources didn't go into detail about this, but I imagine it's got to vary from person to person, right? Some people might find it really unsettling at first, and not feeling that heartbeat, while others, I bet, focus on the positive. Like, hey, I'm alive, I've got a future because of this thing. It's probably a mix of everything.
It makes you think about how much the heartbeat is like built into our culture, our language. We talk about matters of the heart, we follow our hearts, we experience heartbreak. I mean, what happens to all that when your actual heart like literally doesn't beat anymore?
That's such an interesting point. I mean, it makes you think, right? It's where technology meets biology, meets how we see the world. Who knows, maybe as these artificial hearts become more common, like everyday things, our whole understanding of the heart will change. Like what it means to have a heart.
Yeah, maybe we'll start talking about matters of the titanium. But okay, enough jokes. Seriously though, this stuff makes you think about what it means to be human, It's deep.
Oh, absolutely. And there are no easy answers to those questions, right? It's going to take time, lots of discussion as this technology keeps developing.
And speaking of developing, where do you think this is all going? Like, what's the future of titanium hearts?
I'm telling you, it's an exciting time to be in this field. Like, things are moving so fast. I think it's realistic to imagine a future where heart failure just isn't a death sentence anymore,
Like a future where these titanium hearts are as normal as, I don't know, hip replacements, cataract surgery, like something everyone knows about.
Exactly. And maybe even more than that. Some people believe, some researchers, they think artificial hearts might even get better than our biological ones eventually.
Whoa, hold on. Better? Like what? Superhuman hearts that don't get tired or sick?
It sounds crazy, but think about it. Hearts that can change with your activity level, control blood flow perfectly, maybe even release medicine right into your blood.
Whoa, okay. That's wild. But you said earlier, the more advanced this stuff gets, the more ethical questions pop up.
Yeah, for sure. It's crucial to have these conversations now, while everything is still developing, while we can still make choices.
So what are some of the big ethical things we got to think about as we go down this road, this uncharted territory?
Well, one that comes up all the time is allocation. Like, if we get to a point where these titanium hearts are a long-term solution, maybe even a permanent one, how do we decide who gets them? Do the sickest people get priority? What about age? Lifestyle?
I mean, yeah, those are tough questions. Not the kind of thing you can just answer easily.
No, not at all. And then there's the whole thing about organ donation. If artificial hearts are everywhere, are people going to be less willing to donate their own hearts? I mean, it makes you wonder.
That's a really good point.
Right.
It could change, like, the whole world of transplants, right?
Absolutely. But it could also be a good thing, right? Maybe as these artificial hearts get even more sophisticated, we could use them to actually repair damaged hearts so people don't need transplants in the first place.
Okay, yeah. That would be incredible. So it sounds like there are tons of possibilities here, some good, some maybe not so good. It's kind of hard to predict where things are going to go.
It is. It's super complex, constantly changing. It's why it's so important to stay in the loop,
Yeah.
Keep learning, keep talking about these things.
Couldn't agree more. I think we've given our listeners a lot to chew on already, though.
Yeah, a lot to think about, that's for sure.
How about we take a little break, gather our thoughts, and when we come back, we'll wrap up our deep dive with some final thoughts and key takeaways. Sound good?
All right, so we're back, and we're wrapping up our deep dive into the world of titanium hearts. We've covered a lot, the science, the tech, the potential problems, the whole ethics thing. It's been a lot.
Yeah, it has. But it's been fascinating, right? I mean, we're talking about an innovation that's totally changing what's possible in medicine. It's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. So before we go, let's take a minute, maybe just kind of recap some of the big things we talked about. Like, remember at the beginning, we were talking about that BiVACOR total artificial heart, the TAH, the one made of titanium, uses magnetic levitation, so no pulse.
Yeah. Yeah, we've come a long way since those early artificial hearts. I mean, this technology, it's more durable, way more efficient, and could potentially last a lot longer, too. And those stories we talked about, the patients going home, living pretty normal lives while they wait for transplants, it's just incredible, right? It really is. I mean, it shows you just how powerful this technology can be. It can really change lives. But we also got to remember, right? There are still some challenges, like the cost, that's a big one, and we need more research to really see how these things perform over time.
Yeah, definitely. And then there's all the stuff we were talking about before the break, like
Yeah.
building the right infrastructure, getting the regulations in place, making sure everyone has access to this technology. It's a big project, a global effort. No one country can do this alone.
And then, of course, there's that whole ethical side of things, right? Living without a heartbeat, what that means for people, what it means for organ donation.
Yeah.
And then the whole question of, like, who gets these hearts if they become a long-term thing, a permanent thing? It's heavy stuff, you know?
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
And it shows you how far we've come, right? We're talking about questions that were basically science fiction not that long ago. But now they're real. They're questions we got to answer. It's a lot of responsibility.
For sure. And I think the big takeaway, at least for me, is that we're at this really unique point in history where things that used to be science fiction are becoming like everyday reality. I mean, titanium hearts are just one example, but it's happening all over medicine, all over technology.
I think you're right. And I guess what I hope people take away from this, from our conversation, is that we're not just like watching this happen. We have a role to play. We got to stay informed. We got to talk about these things, and we got to help shape this future that's coming, you know.
Yeah, I love that. It's like we're not just passengers, right? We're part of making this happen. And I think if we do it right, if we're thoughtful about it, if we're careful, we could be on the edge of a world where heart failure, it just doesn't have to be a death sentence anymore. Like everyone deserves a chance to live a full life no matter what. And maybe, just maybe, these titanium hearts are part of making that happen.
I really believe that. It's a future worth working for. And I think, you know, as we keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with medicine, with technology, we just remember the goal is to make things better for people, for everyone. That's what it's all about.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, folks, that's our deep dive into the world of titanium hearts. Thanks for joining us. We hope you learned something cool, maybe got you thinking about the future. And until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those big questions, and of course, keep diving deep.